Hello, good morning. Welcome to BBC News. In the last half hour, the government has set out what it says will be the economic benefits of the controversial HS2 high-speed rail line. The project is designed to reduce journey times between London and the north of England, but it still faces opposition because of the cost. The government says HS2 would boost the economy by billions of pounds every year. It estimates it would bring £2.30 worth of benefits for every pound it cost. That's a slight drop from a previous prediction of £2.50. It says it would provide 4 times as many faster commuter train seats per hour. And the number of train services would be doubled on some parts of the network. Well, let's head over live to Manchester now and get all the details from our transport correspondent, Richard Westcott. Richard.
Good morning. Yeah, well, this is a huge, very expensive project, but it comes down to a very simple thing, really, doesn't it? Can the government prove to all the sceptics, convince all the sceptics that it's worth the money, that the benefits outweigh the costs? They've tried 4 times with business cases. This is the 5th time. It's more comprehensive, I can tell you, than the first 4, which have come in for a lot of stick from MPs, from sceptics all over. This is their 5th attempt, and here's what's in it.
It would be Britain's most expensive building project, a fast train line that the government insists will spread wealth and prosperity, especially to the Midlands and the north of England. But there's a giant question mark hanging over HS2. Is it worth the money? This latest business case predicts that HS2 would bring £2.30 worth of benefits for every pound it cost. That's a slight drop from a previous prediction of £2.50, mainly because the maximum budget for the scheme rocketed by £10 billion earlier this year. But ministers claim this figure is just one element of a convincing case to build HS2. But the report also says HS2 will quadruple the number of fast commuter seats on parts of the network, double the number of train services in some areas, and boost the economy by billions of pounds every year.
If you go and talk to the leaders of Birmingham City Council, or Manchester City Council, or Leeds City Council, or the Mayor of London, the Mayor of Liverpool, they will all tell you how vital this project is for their cities.
It's people like John Kelleher that will need convincing. HS2 will run right through his land, flooring his 150-year-old oak tree, wiping out his farm.
The government figures only tell you half the story. They're trying to convince you with their figures that HS2 is a good thing, it's going to benefit all of us. But they're not taking into consideration the amount that HS2 will destroy on its construction and its route through the countryside.
This will be the 5th official business case to justify HS2. The last 4 failed to convince enough people, including many MPs, that the scheme is worth the money. Ministers will be hoping they've done enough to convince more doubters this time.
So it's out, it's more than 120 pages. We've got the headlines there, the things that the government really wants you to know about. But what we'll get now is a slow process of the critics, economists and so on pouring through it to check up on those figures, to see if it really does add that number of train seats, to see if it really is convincing that it benefits the UK by £15 billion a year. Of course, one of the biggest people they'll have to convince is Ed Balls, Labour's Shadow Chancellor, who's been openly sceptical of the project, who said, look, even at £50 billion, even if the budget doesn't go up, I'm going to look to see if that is the best way to spend that enormous sum of money. So one of the biggest issues they've got at the moment is keeping Labour on board, because the reality is, if Labour pull out, if Labour say, actually, it's too much money, we can spend it better elsewhere, and that's the end of this project. We're going to get that message a lot today. Interestingly, a vote on Thursday is not a key bill for HS2, but it is important. It kind of keeps the scheme ticking over. It'll be interesting to see how many Conservative and Labour rebels vote against it there. We're expecting the bill to go through, but we're expecting a little rebellion, so we'll see what happens on Thursday.
Richard, many thanks. Well, let's go now to our correspondent, Carol Walker at Westminster. Carol, we heard Richard Westcott there saying that this is becoming something of a political hot potato.
Yes, that's right, and I've just come from a briefing where officials were setting out the benefits as they see it of HS2, of bringing these major cities together, telling us of that cost-benefit ratio. So for every pound you spend, they say we're going to get £2.3 worth of benefit. But the Labour opposition, although they're supporting it for the time being, are making it clear that there's no open chequebook for this. And some Conservative MPs are not convinced either. I'm joined now by one of them, Andrew Bridgen, who's the Conservative MP for North West Leicestershire. Why are you opposed to this scheme?
Well, my constituents will be taking all the pain for none of the gain. The cost-benefit ratio was £1.50 to start with. Since then, the project's gone up by £10 billion, and that was assuming that people didn't work on the train. So that's not all the independent bodies, the CBI, the IOD, National Audit Office, Public Accounts Committee, Treasury Select Committee only a couple of weeks ago said that there was no business case and the whole project should be suspended.
Well, the business case is, as I was just describing, they're saying we're going to get £2.3 worth of benefit for every pound spent. An awful lot of businesses do want this. It's going to be a lot of jobs. It's going to be a lot of jobs in the construction. It's going to, as we are told, help to regenerate many areas along the route, help to connect the major cities, to spread the prosperity which we know is focused around London at the moment. Surely those are important factors for the country.
If HS2 have been sitting on this report for 6 or 7 months, I might be cynical, but why are they releasing it less than 2 days before the vote on Thursday for the rest of the paving bill, when colleagues will have no time to analyse the methodology behind their reasoning?
What about that vote on Thursday? How many on your side do you think are going to vote against this project?
I think it'll be more than voted against the initial paving bill. I've spoken to a lot of backbench colleagues who are very concerned about this project. Most are agnostic, they have no view either way, it doesn't really affect them, but they are unconvinced of the business case. However, some colleagues are going to vote for the rest of the paving motion because they want their constituents to get access to compensation because of the blight this project's causing across the country.
But the government's going to get this through. It looks as though Labour are going to support it. Are you going to carry on campaigning against it?
I think Labour are going to support it for now, but there's no doubt that Labour are easing back their support. Ed Balls is going to have the final say on whether Labour pull HS2. I think he's already psychologically spent that £14 billion in the next Parliament that would have been earmarked to HS2. There's no point to the Labour Party running into the next election without money to spend. There is no money to spend. I believe they're going to pull the HS2 budget and leave the government in the lurch, and we need to be prepared for that, and I've mentioned this to David Cameron.
All right, Andrew Bridgen, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And yes, that big vote coming up on Thursday. Looks as though the government will win that one, but still a very long way to go on this major project.